Welcome back. It's Dr. G here taking student questions asynchronously for Comp 2143 Digital Media Literacy. And we're getting into several of our class readings as well as some clips. And students have lots of strong questions to engage the content. And we're just making the most of this time, right? Asynchronous experience for a pandemic situation. All right. So I want to tackle one final question from Tyler, who we were looking at previously, and then we'll move into some other territory, right? Tyler asks as a closeout question, in reference to Marcel Denise's Pop Culture Introductory Perspectives, 4th edition, perhaps 3rd, how does one keep up with pop culture in an ever-changing environment? And that is a fair question. It's a good question. Because it's a rat race, first and foremost. Popular culture is a rat race because it's not shrinking, it's ever increasing. So it's always getting bigger, right? The volume, the momentum. And you can't keep up with it, which is intentional. And something I think about, I would liken, if someone feels like they need to, quote unquote, fully absorb, right, or somehow be a completist, right? There's no such thing, of popular culture. It's the same thing as a gamer anticipating that they are going to effectively beat the type of game that's a massive role playing online and has no end in sight, right? You just go until you're done. But here's how we can not feel like, okay, I either need to take it or leave it, or grasp a kind of positive implication with regards to popular culture, but also this intellectual side of the communication, media, and ethics degree program is thinking about how it can benefit us in what we do intellectually, what we do professionally, what we do socially, right? And so what I would say is if you can become advanced at reading and interpreting these texts beyond their surface level, beyond their aesthetic level, right? So if you can train yourself into these deeper layers, then you can find ways for it, find uses for popular culture rather than being simply used by popular culture. Does that make sense? That's meant to be a silver lining, and encouragement is, just like you would think about other texts as tools, right? And how do we use these tools to enhance life, right? Or add certain values where they can. Well, let's look at a couple of questions from Maria. It's another interesting draw for one of our clips in week 1 from Cave Drawings to Emojis video by Marcel Denise. If society is going toward if society is going towards a semiotic culture, then will other communications like words become meaningless? No, not at all. That's a great thing. We are likely to see well, first of all, let's define semiotic culture. And if there's a specific definition that is semiotic culture, then I need to recheck the Denise text, and we'll clear all this out. Semiotics, plural, is a field of study, field of inquiry interested in the study of signs and symbols. So that can be helpful for us. Semiotics, and seeing that as an area of inquiry. But semiotic culture is just a culture that's very sign heavy, I guess, and perhaps we're thinking about maybe digital culture as being very visual, but it's also linguistic. And so I would just say our communication, our words becoming meaningless, like that kind of slippery slope of being that's can be fear-based, is we are likely to see increased confusion and debate over meaning or meanings. And some of that intentional confusion, right? When confusion is intentional, when semiotics are misused or abused to co-opt, to manipulate, that should send up a warning sign. That should be a call to action for us. And perhaps this is going to bleed over into a different conversation we're having in our video discussion series in this course, where we're looking at the identity of fake news, what that is, what it means, how it's been used, and I mean linguistically, not just as a noun. Like what it is one thing, and we should be exploring that. I think one of our prompts encourages us to, but what it means and how it is used is equally important. We'll get into that as well. So, a tease for things to come. From the Twitter tutorial video, what is geo targeting and who could it benefit? All right, geo targeting is I'm gonna just paraphrase and parcel this down in a relatable answer. I'm not suggesting this is the full take. There's much more to this, but often when we're dealing with geo targeting, there is a tendency to be able to kind of utilize technology to locate certain things and to circulate certain types of information in certain groups. Now, you've heard of, everyone may have heard of, I had to hedge my words there, Pokemon Go. Is that what it was called? Pokemon Go? If not, I apologize for mistitling it there, but this geo-based game, right, where it was using GPS to send people out to find, to collect lots of Pokemon. You gotta catch them all. And this was a fun activity, and it's one of these ways that you would synchronize and allow the in-game app software to use that geo trackers, and then it would pinpoint certain Pokemon. Now that was for gaming's sake, but if we learn anything, and hopefully we will, about social media, if we're not familiar already, there's a lot of significant conversations and happenings in the short history of social media. It has to do with privacy. What companies, what private corporations do with user privacy. And a lot of times when you agree to sign up, it's free, right? But what you're getting in free, you're actually trading for in the use of information that you're steadily collecting over time. You're creating every action taken on the platform is creating a profile, and that profile can also have activated like GPS capabilities and geo tracking. And you have and ultimately, what does that do, and how does it create revenue? Well, that's the key thing. How can a company increasingly be worth billions and billions if it doesn't charge us money? Because it doesn't have to. And one of the mechanisms that a Facebook or other social network entities have found profit is through selling data. And sometimes selling the data of users means selling their location. And so what that means is they would take where you're at and thus do ad sales locally, right? So instead of me getting ads for maybe a Chinese restaurant in San Francisco, I'm getting more local, right? OKC based product ideas and stuff like that. And I do. And I've made purchases based off of those suggested sponsored ads. So something to think about with regards to Twitter. Who could it benefit? Geo-targeting expands our orientation, expands our opportunities, like business opportunities potentially. And simultaneously, it increases surveillance. I think that's a critique. I think it's a critique many would have. And so there's this heightened sense of monitoring, right, of activity and so on. And essentially, most of it's for monetary purposes, but not necessarily all of it, as we saw throughout the the some of the new age actions taken during what was titled War on Terror, right? Let's look at a different question from our book, Popular Culture Introductory Perspectives, on page 9. The author talks about pop culture originating in America. Why is that? And let me say this: there's an argument to be made, and it's made. I've read it and heard it many times. It's absolutely divisive. Let me preface an absolutely divisive argument that's made is that America, that is to say the USA, is not only a melting pot, or what some of our authors in our classes refer to as a stew rather than a melting pot. That America is built, or rather has built its culture off of borrowing from other cultures, borrowing ideas from other cultures. We borrow languages from other cultures. We borrow, fashion from other cultures. And we get ideas from other cultures, and we integrate them, right? And so not only do we integrate, ideas, whether that be something like technology or how to govern, or, these various conduits of life, popular culture as a kind of commercialized entity just skyrocketed in the 20th, throughout the 20th century. Like, we're not pinpointing a single, we're looking at a period in human history where certain types of information travel and certain types of information were suddenly just changed the way the world and the economies are shaped. And the U.S. is like the alpha example of that. Obviously, we can look back at all cultures as lending something significant. And so it doesn't, just because we're not the first, doesn't mean that, I think I said that backwards, but I think you get what I'm saying, which is, the U.S. has kind of had the most projected popular culture, right? We've been able to kind of develop and commercialize cultural practices in ways that few, if any, other countries in human history have. So that's food for thought there. Let's take a segment break, and perhaps we'll have one more bit of discourse for today. We'll try to pick back up and continue these discussions at a later date and time.